yeah, I'm tired and I'm not pulling an all-nighter tonight because I'm not doing that shit 2 nights in a row. Especially after that stupid crap. I know, people have good intentions, but it's polarizing. And they don't realize that that's actually part of the problem. It's polarizing. You can't just... On an app where I volunteer to help people, this crap is seeping into everything. I mean, and then people who weren't polarized about certain views, like, are becoming more polarized. Like Jimmy Snow, Mr. Atheist. Does people know him? He's becoming very extreme, saying some rather violent things. Things that, like, this should happen to you if you're a Trump supporter and other things like that. And then there's Tim Pool, who, because Mr. Atheist is becoming like this, has basically come to the conclusion that he is no longer, that there are no exceptions. Like, he can't think of any exceptions now for, people who aren't religious. And by religious, of course, he means his religion. So I'm watching people that I've watched for a while because they had moderate views go in other directions, because the extremes happening here are just that insane. I don't know what to do or say anymore, because people that used to make sense in the world, I mean, they're slowly losing it. Everybody else has already lost it. But even people that stay pretty steady down the middle have started to become more extreme about different things. As Jimmy Snow starts advocating for things he wouldn't before, as he starts going down a very ugly and slippery slope, people who kind of looked at him as a positive example for atheists and people who were simply not Christian, who were or weren't both, are starting to look at him and say, you are no longer an exception to the rule, that people are shitty. Specifically, these people are taught, hey, your religion isn't shitty, and the people who are part of it aren't shitty, so everybody else is. So people of your religion are supposed to automatically be an exception unless they prove otherwise, and everyone else is shitty unless they prove otherwise, and you're not supposed to give them the opportunity to prove otherwise. I grew up primarily with that shit, so yeah. My grandmother was very extreme on the religious scale. Like, yikes. It was yikes. It was yikes times 1,000. So, yeah. So, there's that. I don't know. The world's gone mad. It's just gone mad. Even voices that you can normally trust to be pretty tempered, pretty down the middle, pretty reasonable. Not all of them are that way anymore, and they may not be polarizing on the issues at hand, but they're becoming polarized about other issues as tensions rise. It doesn't take much. It's like everything that has been boiling in society, everything that has simmered, is just going poof at once. And I'm not. As much as I hate it, I ask myself a lot why and what the rational path is because I've known that this was coming for a while. Just even before this just sped it up. Even before the SJW nonsense. Even before it was out there propped up like that was the mainstream ideal. There's just too much crap that has been simmering, and most of it is government. But also there's some things that are simmering because of propaganda, or because groups of people think that other groups of people have more than them, when no, you literally cannot tell me that I'm more privileged than someone who, has money and a house that they own and savings that they can fall back on and literally anything. Even just making enough money to be able to save something like substantial and not have to scrape and pinch pennies to get anything. You cannot tell me that that person isn't privileged. And you cannot tell me that I have privilege over that person. That's stupid. Having pale skin doesn't give me shit, except to be shat on by people who don't like it. That's the only thing I get from that. Oh, and I burn incredibly easy, and that's to say I also get sun poisoning incredibly easily, and that too. But, both of those are kind of shitty. It's just the idea that stuff even mattered was stupid to begin with. And then they came out with this idea that if you're colorblind, that you're racist. That is actually the opposite. Do you understand what racism is? Like, do you understand? If you can look at somebody and say, your opinion doesn't matter because you have pale skin, because you're white, which, by the way, is a vast overgeneralization to many different ethnic groups that are genetically different. And culturally. And in the United States, we are mixed as fuck. But also, people also, it used to be called the Great Melting Pot for that reason. And this idea, these guys are racists. If you think that somebody needs your help because they have darker skin and for no other reason, just they have darker skin, and you think that people with darker skin are disadvantaged, you are racist. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. You are looking down on people. You are racist. And if you think that somebody magically has it better than you because their skin is paler than yours, you're racist. Literally racist. Unless you live in an area where that's actually true, which is few and far between. There are not actually many places like that in this country, though I have heard that there are some places that are polarized in either direction in some countries in Africa, where even people of African descent here are considered white. Basically, you're not dark enough for them. And then also because you didn't grow up with the culture, they're referring to your culture too. And then there's areas where you can't be darker skinned. And I'm like, is that what they want to turn this country into? Because that's where this is going. If this doesn't stop, everything that this country was built on, the diversity they wave like a flag, will be destroyed. They wave it like a flag, but they don't even understand. Everything about American culture is diversity. If you don't like it here, leave. I mean, like, I don't like it here, but like, I want to fix it, not watch it. It's complicated. My feelings are complicated. But like, I wouldn't choose to do these things because I understand that these don't actually fix anything. They just make everything worse. So yes, there are things that need to be toppled over and gotten rid of, but this doesn't actually do that. All this does is raise a mob. And we don't know what's going to be left afterwards. And I guarantee you, there is someone trying to like manipulate and direct that mob because they want to be that someone that decides that. Because they think that their vision is somehow not going to make things worse, despite the fact it is their vision that decides that it's okay to pull people, innocent bystanders, who are just doing their jobs, out of their trucks, or throw rocks at little kids, and then, you get insanity on both sides. What the hell were those cops doing shooting that reporter? What the hell was that reporter doing? Looking like one of the protesters. You have to be distinct. I get it. She was probably trying to be relatable or something, or just not get, like, it's a fine line right now. You cannot, this is like going in the middle of a combat zone. That one reporter was smart, though. If you are in the middle of a crowd that is hurting you, the calmer you are, the less damage you'll come out with. Unless they know that that's what you're doing. And they are actually determined to maliciously harm you and stuff. But still, if you run, if you, fight them in any way, and you have a raging mob all around you, the funny thing about mobs is it's about the closest that human beings come to sheep. Because sheep will follow the leader off the cliff. A mob is like a flock of sheep. And that doesn't just mean what direction they walk in. It also includes actions like if there is even a spark of aggression, it'll light up like that. And if you are the target of it, people may not even know why they're targeting you. This is often why we call it whenever it's family court and they just lose their kids and there's no criminal charges, nothing's being said or anything, but just the fact that they lost their kids. People find out about that and they think that you've done something even if you haven't. So all the corruption that's there, all they have to do is insinuate something, even something nebulous, and you're done. There are people who will come after you for that, who will think that they are magically some part of some vigilante justice. My voice will never be the same. Some of those people are doctors and nurses. And it only takes one. There are others who lift you up, but everything is so stacked against you. If you don't have the right information in time, it's so corrupt, pretty much the only thing that you can do is record from the beginning. And if you don't know to do that, you don't know certain information before certain points, you're screwed, and it doesn't matter if it's legit or not. Because that's what Arizona's like. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit if half the people out there were people who were part of that system, who are just so angry, even though they're not really trapped at all. It's like the people who just follow a crowd. They're just like, it's like it never crosses their mind to go in a different direction. It's like that, only with other things. Mob mentality is a real thing, but it also derives from the fact that humans are social creatures, and maybe at one point we moved in tribes or like herds. I mean, we see it with monkeys. Often if one reacts, the rest of them react, and this is how they deal with predators. But with humans, this is also how innocent people can also get hurt. And if you hurt 100 innocent people and one guilty person, who's really guilty here? I mean that very sincerely. Who's really guilty if you hurt 100 innocent people and only one guilty person? I got a newsflash. It's you. At that point, you're the villain. The world was already crazy before this. Somehow it's just boiled to the surface. And I'm not sure that it's gonna stop. I think at this point, I'm gonna say something radical. I think that it would be prudent to discuss ejecting certain, maybe not ejecting, but I think it would be prudent if we restructured the union. Not in the federal government has more power over you, which is what they did whenever the South tried to leave the southern states. I mean, maybe it's healthier if we stop trying to play Rome. Rome was not built in a day, but this is about how they fell. People over on this side of the country, our voices don't reach Washington. That's what happens when your leaders don't feel like leaders. They just feel like a far off voice. That what they say doesn't even end up affecting you. Things that they do just kind of get lost in the ether because it doesn't even reach you. That is how vast the United States of America is. Also, how vast China is too, and Russia, and they have the same problems. But they don't have the population density some of these areas have. I mean, China kind of does. But we're also seeing this with some things like Hong Kong and areas of China that rise up and rebel frequently. Like, is this what kind of country we want? At some point, we just have to say, you know what, do you want to leave the Union? Because otherwise, we are fighting a very pointless war. Why are we fighting to keep them? Why not let some states leave and become their own thing? Maybe have an alliance of sorts to prevent the two sides from warring. The thing is, you'd have to be careful how you did it. I don't know. It's a radical idea, but it's an idea. A very desperately thought out idea, because right now, my country is split so harshly over so many different things that have been needled by so many different groups to make it so much worse. I don't think there's anything else that we could do to maintain any sort of strength. And I don't think these people care that if this continues and our country is overly weak in the face of the world, their regimes won't last very long. There's always someone bigger than you. And if you are willing to scorch the earth and weaken your country to just so that you can fight over who sits in the big chair and wears the big hat, you will be overtaken the same way. But who am I? Nobody listens to me. Nobody's listening to me. I don't even know why I'm talking anymore about any of this. It's not YouTube shadow banning me for talking about the family court stuff. You know, it's... I don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. And I don't know where they are out there in it. And I've got other loved ones out there too that I have to wonder about. My brother's in the army. My biological brother, you know. We're not on good terms. Because he did some things while he was a raging alcoholic